This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, you can't have a shiur about Asara b'teves without discussing the famous Avudraham. Avudraham, it's quoted in the Beis Yosef, I believe in Siman Tav Kuf Nun, mentions the idea that if Asara b'teves would come out on Shabbos, we would fast even on Shabbos. And many reasons are given, many explanations are given. But let's give an explanation that ties into this week's Parsha. Vayichi Yaakov v'Eretz Mitzrayim, Sheva Esrei Shana. Vayihi Yimei Yaakov, Sheva Shanim v'Arba'im U'Ma'a Shana. Yaakov lived 147 years. What is the significance of these 147 years? We know how many klalos are in the Teichacha in Bechukaisai? 49. And in Kisavai, 98. A total of 147. So there are a total of 147 curses in the Teichacha that correspond to the years of Yaakov. Actually, just the opposite. Yaakov's 147 years protect us from the 147 klalos of the Teichacha. What we're sharing now is the Chasam Sofer and the Siddur Chasam Sofer, number 25 on your sheet. So Yaakov lived 147 years. Now let's get another interesting point straight. We mentioned that there's a machlekes Tanoim when the Navi Zechariah says, by the way, according to some, today is the yard side of the Navi Zechariah. When the Navi Zechariah said, Tzayim haraviv, Tzayim hachamishi, Tzayim hashvi, Tzayim hasiri, the fast of the 10th month. So we tend to think that refers to today, the 10th day of the 10th month, Asar b'teves. But that's the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. Rav Shimon Yochai says, no, that doesn't make any sense, because it's not going in order. The fast of the 4th is Shavas B'Tammuz. The fast of the 5th is Tisha B'Av. The fast of the 7th is Tzom Gedalia. The fast of the 10th is Asar b'teves. Asar b'teves is the beginning of the process. That's when they surrounded the walls. So Rav Shimon Yochai says, in his opinion, the fast of Teves is something that happened after everything. What's that? That's the news. The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed on Tisha B'Av, Av, Elul, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev. On the 5th day of Teves in the Galus, they heard word that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. This is the day that the report came to the Galus. Now that's not a good thing. You know, sometimes the day you hear about the report is more painful than when it happened, because when it happens, people don't know about it. The pain is when you hear about it. How many days after Tisha B'Av is the 5th day of Teves?
147?
Almost. Well, let's think of it this way. Elul, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev. That's 4 months. 4 months is something like 120 days. But minus 2, right? Well, 118. Then you have 20 days in Av. That's like 138. Or 29 days, 21 days in Av. That's how many? 139. So the 5th day of Teves is like 144 or 143 or 142, yeah? The 10th day of Teves is 147. That's what the Chasam Sofer says. The 10th day of Teves is day 147. It would have been really good if we've been able to hear the news on the 10th day of Teves. You know why it would have been very good if we would have heard it on the 10th day of Teves? Because the 10th day of Teves would have been day 147. And if it would have been 147, we would have had the years of Yaakov Avinu to protect us. But the truth is, we didn't. Why not? So the Chasam Sofer says a very interesting thing. The number 147 is 21 sevens. 21 sevens. 21 times 7 is 147. The problem is, if we would have been Zocha to hear the report on the Asara b'Teves, which is day 147, that would have offered us a degree of protection. As Yaakov Avinu's years protect us from the Teichacha, it would have given us a certain protection of this. Unfortunately, we heard the news on day 5. So now what's the reason why we couldn't hear the news on day 147? Because since 147 is 21 times 7, because we failed to keep Shabbos properly, therefore we couldn't be protected by these 21 Shabbosim of the life of Yaakov Avinu. Therefore, if Asara B'Teves falls out on Shabbos, we need to fast.
21 Shabbosim.
So what does that mean? What's the significance of 21 Shabbosim? Okay, so look.
No, that's not what's 21 Shabbosim. Yaakov Avinu had 147 years of Shabbosim.
Yeah, so the number 147 represents 21 Shabbosos. But because Klal Yisrael did not keep Shabbos properly during the time of the Churban, therefore we cannot be offered this protection of hearing the news on day 147. Therefore we heard the news on day 142, and that's what adds fuel to the fire of Asara B'Teves. Meaning, part of the tragedy of Asara B'Teves is we couldn't hear the news on that day. Hashem didn't orchestrate that we should hear the news on that day. Because of that, that's why it was so tragic. And that's one of the rationales, the Chasam Sofer says, why, if Asara B'Teves would come out on Shabbos, we would fast on Shabbos. Because we didn't observe Shabbos properly, therefore, we couldn't be protected by Shabbos, and we had to hear the news on the 5th of Teves instead of the 10th of Teves. Let's look at that in side number 25. This comes from the Drashas Chasam Sofer Peites. Look, Oidiyeh Shloimar, Ki Mekubalam Anachnu, Ki Kuf Mem Zayin Shnois Yaakov, the 147 years of Yaakov, Maginim Al Toichacha Shabbatar Skayhanim, Memtes protects us on the Toichacha of Vayikra, which is 49 colors, V'Shavah Mishnah Torah Tzadik Ches, Oila Kuf Mem Zayin, which are 21 sevens of curses that are Nishapik L'bracha. V'hinei Hoya Roi Shabbos HaMikdash Shetchilas Chorbanei Hoya B'Yom Tishbav, V'nimshach Ad Yom HaShmuah, Shehu Ba'atzmai Gemar Chorbanei, Hoya Roi Sheyeh Kuf Mem Zayin Yomim. It should have been 147 days, 21 times 7, so that the years of Yaakov could protect us. And this way, if it would be 147, so let's just calculate again. We have Elul, Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, which let's say is 118 days, and 21 days in Av, that's 139. So the 10th day of Teves really should be 149. So we're going to have to say there are 20 days in Av, and we're going to have to say the 117 days in Elul, Tishrei, Cheshvan, and Kislev. That would have gotten us to day 147. However, we were not zoicha to that. Why not? In that generation, we were not zoicha to be protected by this series of sevens. Therefore, we heard the news on the 5th. Therefore, we fast on the 10th, because many tragedies happened on the 10th. Number one, the wall was surrounded, and number two, we fast that we weren't zoicha to hear the news on that day. If we would have heard it on that day, things would have been a lot better. Therefore, since we were not shomer Shabbos, that's one of the reasons why if Asar B'Teves would come out on Shabbos, we would fast even on Shabbos.
So the people in Bavel were Maryanim that they didn't observe Shabbos? The ones that left, I thought that they were a little bit more on the derech than the other areas.
What's one of the things that they were criticized for in the times of the Churban? On lack of Shmir Shah. Okay, this is one of the ideas of the Chasam Sofer for Asara B'Teves.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.